For 72 seconds in 1977, a radio telescope recorded something from deep space that matched every predicted signature of an extraterrestrial transmission. The astronomer who found it, days later, circling a printout in red pen, wrote one word in the margin. That word became the most famous annotation in the history of science. And in 47 years of searching, dozens of attempts, instruments 1,000 times more sensitive, no one has heard that signal again. Not once. The question this video cannot answer is the same one no institution has been willing to file officially. Welcome to the Grim Archive. Tonight's file, the WOW signal. By 1977, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence had been running for nearly 2 decades on almost no money and even less institutional respect. Ohio State University's radio observatory, called Big Ear, was one of the few places still doing it seriously. The telescope was not elegant. It was a flat metal field the size of 3 football fields, fixed to the ground, pointed at a single strip of sky. It did not steer, it did not track. Earth's rotation carried the sky across it, one narrow band at a time, every single day. The telescope ran continuously, logging radio signals across 50 frequency channels simultaneously. The data did not arrive in real time for human eyes. It printed onto long sheets of paper, columns of numbers and letters, each character representing signal intensity at a given moment. Researchers reviewed those printouts by hand, days or weeks after the fact. Most of what they found was noise, terrestrial interference, cosmic static. The universe, it turned out, is extraordinarily loud with things that are not messages. The signal they were looking for had been theorized precisely. It would arrive near 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line, the frequency that physics suggests any spacefaring civilization might choose. Jerry Ehman was a volunteer researcher at Ohio State. He was not on staff. He had no institutional stake in what he found. The signal was recorded at 11:16 p.m. EDT on August 15, 1977, as the telescope swept across a patch of sky in the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. Ehman reviewed the printout days later. What printed in that window was a sequence of characters, 6EQUJ5. In the system Big Ear used, a signal twice the background noise registered as a 2. Anything above 9 became a letter. U, the 4th character of that sequence, represented a signal intensity of 30 times background noise. Ehman circled the sequence in red ballpoint pen. In the margin he wrote, "Wow." That was not a conclusion, it was a reflex. The kind of thing you write when something doesn't fit what you expected the universe to look like. He knew immediately what he was looking at. The signal had arrived at 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line. It had the precise rise and fall shape a fixed telescope would record if a genuine point source in space swept through its beam as Earth rotated. It lasted exactly as long as the telescope's detection window allowed, 72 seconds. It was, on paper, indistinguishable from what a deliberate extraterrestrial transmission would look like. Ehman reported the finding. Big Ear's team attempted to verify it immediately, and here the geometry of the telescope became a problem that could not be solved. Big Ear could not move. It could not be aimed. The only way it could observe the same patch of sky again was to wait for Earth's rotation to carry that strip back into its fixed beam, approximately 24 hours later. They waited. They listened. The coordinates passed through the beam again. Nothing. They listened again the following night. Nothing. Over the next weeks, researchers at Big Ear observed that position more than 50 times. The signal did not return. Not a trace. Not a shadow. Word moved through the SETI community carefully. Researchers at other observatories attempted to confirm the signal using their own instruments, pointing at the same coordinates in Sagittarius. The Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, at the time the largest radio dish on Earth, observed it. Arecibo's sensitivity was dramatically greater than Big Ear's. If the signal had been a continuous or repeating source, Arecibo would have found it. It found nothing. The coordinates in question lie in Sagittarius, no confirmed star at that precise location, no known natural radio source, no catalogued object that could explain an emission of that intensity. Over the following decades, the explanations accumulated. Some researchers proposed the signal was terrestrial interference, a satellite, a military transmission, a ground-based source reflected off debris. Each hypothesis was examined. The hydrogen line frequency, 1420 MHz, sits within a band internationally protected for radio astronomy. Terrestrial transmissions in that band are prohibited by radio regulation precisely because it is reserved for passive scientific use. A satellite in 1977 capable of producing that signal profile at that intensity, from that apparent direction, would have been an extraordinary piece of hardware. No such satellite was ever identified. The interference hypothesis was not disproven. It simply produced no candidate. Absence of evidence is not the same thing as innocence. In 2016, a team led by astronomer Antonio Paris proposed a new explanation: a hydrogen cloud surrounding one of two comets, 266P Christensen or P2008Y2, passing through that region of sky in August 1977, could have produced an emission at the hydrogen line. The proposal was taken seriously. Paris observed both comets as they passed near the WOW signal coordinates in 2016 and 2017. He reported detecting a hydrogen emission consistent with the 1977 signal. Other researchers immediately challenged the methodology. Critics noted that the apparent angular size of a comet's hydrogen cloud is far too large to produce the narrow beam profile that Big Ear recorded. The debate has not been resolved. The comet hypothesis remains contested. Jerry Ehman himself addressed the comet hypothesis publicly. He was unconvinced. His objection was technical. The Big Ear telescope observed two separate sky feeds simultaneously, offset in time. A comet moving through the beam should have appeared in both feeds, separated by a few minutes. The 1977 signal appeared in only one. That single-channel signature is one of the signal's most durable anomalies. It behaves like a point source at interstellar distance, not like a diffuse nearby object. Ehman spent the remainder of his life reviewing the data he had first annotated in 1977. He did not claim to know what it was. He claimed, consistently and without drama, that he did not know what it was not. Jerry Ehman died in 2021. In his final years, he gave interviews calmly and without urgency. He was not a true believer. He was an empiricist who had looked at the same data for 4 decades and arrived at the same boundary. The signal was real, it was remarkable, and its origin was unknown. The Big Ear telescope itself no longer exists. It was demolished in 1997 to make way for a golf course development on the land where the telescope stood. The ground where it stood is now a fairway. The instrument that heard the only signal of its kind in recorded history was replaced with a lawn. The coordinates in Sagittarius have been observed since, with better equipment, by multiple teams. Nothing. What remains is this: a 72-second window, a sequence of characters on a printout, and 47 years of instruments pointed at silence. No natural source has been confirmed, no terrestrial source has been identified, no repetition has been detected. The most sensitive radio telescopes ever built have swept those coordinates and found nothing that explains what Big Ear found in 1977. The honest position, the one Ehman held until the end, is that the question is still open. Not romantically open, not hopefully open, just open, the way a case file stays open when the evidence runs out before the answer does. The next file is already open. Subscribe. The archive is always open.